Hey, what's up, Slunts? Joker here. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Slunt Tech. We took last week off as it was kind of a slow news weekend. I couldn't find anyone else to fill in for Kurt. But fortunately, this week, my longtime friend and fellow gaming and tech enthusiast, Domish, is going to be joining us. How you doing today, Dom?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing pretty damn good. Looking forward to Christmas and getting all those gifts. You got your eye on anything this holiday season?
I am a non-celebratory Christmas person.
Well, aren't you just the the center of happiness over there?
Happy solstice, Joker.
Happy solstice, indeed. Fellow atheist as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but we are both atheists avidly, and we like to debate a little bit. So we might get into some debates here in this podcast. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. All right, to kick things off this week, we're going to jump off with a little bit of gaming news. A game that's near and dear to both our hearts, the Witcher series. Both big fans of the franchise. Loved Witcher 1, loved Witcher 2. I thought the story was absolutely fantastic in that, and the combat as well. I thought they really advanced the series along quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to Witcher 3. But they just keep on delaying this damn thing. It was supposed to originally come out this year, then they pushed it back into 2015, early 2015. But now they're delaying it again, another 12 weeks. And, I would be mad at them, but their reasoning behind it is so good that I just have to accept it from CD Projekt Red, because they're really looking to just not pull another Ubisoft. It seems like there's a lot of tension right now in the industry because of so many games coming out broken that they want to make sure when this game comes out that it is as polished as it can possibly be. And being the fact that it is such a massive open world game and a bigger one than they've ever done in the previous games, because it is just one large open world rather than just being kind of linear instances and stuff like that. They run into a few more bugs than they had anticipated, but it looks like they're taking the time to at least get these things ironed out. And they wrote an open letter to the fans and the gamers this week to basically just put everything on the table and say, look, this is why we're delaying it. And I think most fans have been receptive of their reasoning up to this point, and welcoming a studio that's willing to take the time to iron out the bugs and also be honest about it upfront with the fans right off the bat. I know you're looking forward to Witcher 3, Dom, as well as I am. What do you think about their stance on basically delaying the game further to get it working properly and to also be upfront about it?
I think it's the way they used to do it, and I'm thrilled they're getting back to it again.
Like, what kind of games in the past have you seen this happen where you're saying the way it used to be? Or do you mean just in general how they come out working?
Oh man, I can't remember the last time maybe Gabe Newell with some of his games. He used to delay and he would be out front and honest about it, and it was great. I mean, you were disappointed that it was coming out later, but at the same time you knew when you did get it, it would be working fairly bug-free. I can't remember any games that Steam or Valve have put out that were full of bugs.
Yeah, I can't remember the last game that I got that was 100% perfect at launch. I mean, I guess the closest that came to it this year would have been Divinity Original Sin. I mean, it had a few minor little things, but nothing that I would have considered out of the ordinary, say maybe like 5 years ago, where it seemed like industry standards were a little bit higher even just that long ago. But I guess you really have to go back to before internet updates and updating games, doing hotfixes and things like that really became commonplace, which was kind of with the last generation of consoles. And since developers can just update games seemingly at will now, especially on the PC, on the consoles they have to wait a little bit longer because they have to get approval from Sony and Microsoft. But on the PC they can put out patches whenever they want. So it's almost like they've used that as an excuse now to just put out broken, unfinished games, and then they just patch it afterwards. I'm sure you've experienced that in the past few years, right?
Yeah, it's just not acceptable. I mean, they're making us pay beta testers, and it didn't used to be that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. The same amount of people are going to buy the game whether it comes out tomorrow or a month from tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And now even with things like paid early access, at least with those, they're kind of being upfront about it. Like, hey, look, yes, you're paying for the game right now, but it's going to be really, really buggy, just so you know, like DayZ. We were just talking about that yesterday, about, how buggy that game is still. But, at least with the early access, they are being open and honest about it, unlike some people like Battlefields, when that came out. It was such a nightmare.
And it's nice that it's before Christmas time, and sales always go up before Christmas time. Everybody tries to hit the Christmas rush, and it's really good of them to announce a delay that they're going to be a post-Christmas release. Like, that doesn't usually happen.
No, they usually all want to get their games out, prior to Black Friday so they can get that big shopping rush on Black Friday and the weeks that follow leading up to Christmas. So it's a nice change of pace to see them actually push it back. I mean, it happened last year with Watch Dogs, but unfortunately, when the game did finally come out, it was still really broken. I just talked about that recently in my last Angry Fat Guy video about how Ubisoft has just gone down the tubes completely. And I honestly think Watch Dogs needed another 3 to 6 months to iron out some of the issues with that game, because it still has issues now, and they've just kind of ignored it and pushed it off to the side. And hopefully, and I don't think CD Projekt Red is like that based on their past. They seem to be really dedicated to putting out a quality product, and they also seem to be very dedicated to the PC side of things, which is something I really like to see, because it's kind of foreign nowadays. At least, the PC getting that much dedicated support.
It really hurts because a lot of PC games, you really get 4 to 6, maybe you get a week of good playtime out of it, and after that it starts to get repetitive and boring, or you've finished the campaign. And so a lot of games, if you're a day one purchaser or pre-order guy, then you get the game a week later, you're like, I'm bored of it, and moving on to the next game, and 6 months down the line, the game is finally fixed, so you get to be the guy that played the completely broken game, and you don't even want to play it afterwards. Like, take SimCity, the franchise. It came out so horribly broken that people that play it, even if it was a working, decent game, you play it for a month or two and you're ready for the next game, and it's still not even working, so the people that paid good money for it never got to play a decent game.
Yeah, and another game that has been kind of pushed back as well is GTA 5 for the PC. It was originally meant to come out, alongside with the next gen consoles. At least that's what we were led to believe initially. Whether they had always planned to delay it or not, I'm not really sure. But they said that they pushed it back until February because they wanted to get it ironed out for the PC and make sure it's running great at launch. And based on this rumor that's come out recently, as reported by the Dark Side of Gaming DSOG, it looks like it's running pretty well, although we don't have exact system specs as to what they were using for this, but it was apparently running at 60 FPS on the PC, which is nice to see. And they're also saying that it was the Max Payne 3 team that's handling the PC side of it. I played Max Payne 3 when it first came out, absolutely loved it. I thought it was a very, very good port to the PC. They had a lot of advanced graphics options, and after reading this, I actually went ahead and installed it again just to see, how well optimized it was, because a lot of people do talk about how well optimized it was, and I was, getting upwards of 200 frames constantly on that game, maxed out, and it looked absolutely beautiful the entire time, scaled well in SLI. So if it's that team that's working on the game, I have a lot more faith in Rockstar to put out a quality port to the PC, because based on how GTA 4 was at launch, if anyone remembers, or if you've played it even recently, it's one of the worst optimized games in the history of the PC. You can throw 4 NVIDIA Titans at this thing and still get like 40 frames on medium. It's that horribly optimized.
To be fair, with Rockstar, all the way back to GTA 3, they announced that they were essentially giving up on the PC crowd. So every GTA that comes out that actually gets released on the PC, I'm a little bit thankful for, because GTA is a fantastic franchise. And just having it on the PC, I feel a little betrayed, because GTA was a PC-only game when it came out, and they just they ditched us for consoles, let's be honest. And just having it on the PC, I'll be happy whenever it comes out. They can take as long as they like. I just want to be able to play the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been waiting since this game came out, and before that even, just to get my hands on it. I love pretty much every Rockstar game I've played. Back on my console days when I played GTA 4 on there, and Red Dead Redemption. My God, one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And if that were to come to PC tomorrow, I would pay anything. They could charge whatever they want, and I would just shove the money across the table. It's like, take my money now. It was that good of a game. One of the best stories, amazing combat, really makes you feel like you were right inside a Western. So, I mean, at least GTA 5 is coming to PC, and within a reasonable amount of time, I guess a little bit over a year since it came out on the previous gen, and just within a couple months of it coming out on the next gen consoles, and they're adding in the first person, so they're, not just porting it directly over, they are adding some extra stuff in, also the video editing software for people that want to do content creation and stuff like that, so nice to see that at least GTA 5 is getting a fair shake from Rockstar this time around on the PC.
And I really didn't like GTA 4. The story was really weak. It had a really slow. It took a really long time to get into the game. I ended up giving up on it a couple weeks into playing it.
You're not the first person I've heard say that. I have a lot of friends that are very vehement about the fact that it was one of the worst GTAs. I really, really enjoyed it because I liked that they were kind of taking the story more seriously and giving it more of a strong narrative, rather than previous games. I had kind of lost interest around GTA San Andreas and Vice City because I felt like it was more of just kind of going around the city and goofing off and doing like little meaningless side quests that didn't really add to the narrative at all. Whereas I felt everything in GTA 4, even the side missions, sort of all added to the main story, and I enjoyed that. But I guess a lot of people, Domish included, didn't.
Maybe I just didn't give it a fair shake. Maybe there was a slow start and I just couldn't get past it. It was a hump. I couldn't make it over.
Yeah, and my other friends that I was saying didn't like the game either. They also, like, some of them only played it for a short period of time and then quit off. But some of them completed it all, and then other friends are like, well, they didn't like the main game, but they liked the DLCs. The DLCs were really good. Rockstar has a tradition of putting out some pretty stellar DLCs for their games, like decent actual expansions, more than just like some little 2-hour thing that you could just run through, or some bullshit add-on content. It was like actual, like, here's an extra 8 hours of story with completely different characters and different voice actors and everything. So, they do that kind of stuff really well, and I'm hoping they continue to do that for GTA 5. It seems like they're just waiting, basically, for it to get out on all the platforms, and then they'll start rolling out DLC. Fingers crossed, though.
Call me shallow, but I've always liked the GTA series just so I could beat people up and steal cars. Like, the story is something that always took a back seat with me. GTA 4, I gave up on it mainly because I couldn't just beat people up and steal cars. I had to actually go through plot, and I'm like, this is an impediment to my stealing cars. Get out of the way.
You see, that's how I initially felt when I played GTA when I was younger on like the PlayStation 2, like GTA 3. And Vice City. It's I just wanted to go around. Like, my friends would be over because obviously there wasn't really any online gaming at that point, really strong anyway on the consoles. So we would all just gather around the TV and take turns just seeing how long we could survive against the cops. I mean, I can't remember how many times in GTA 3 I would just run up to the top of the steps of the football stadium with like infinite ammo and just launch down rocket launchers on cops like infinitely until they could finally take me down somehow, even though I was using loads of cheat codes. That was like, that was the fun back then, but I guess I kind of grew out of
that. Not me, that's still why I play the entire genre.
Alright, so Sony's been kind of in the news a lot lately. You talked about it in the last podcast, which was 2 weeks ago, because they were apparently hacked by a group called Guardians of Peace, hashtag GOP, that had initially stolen a lot of data from them and sort of held it at ransom almost on Sony and threatened to leak it incrementally, and they've held up to that end of the bargain. They put out a bunch of movies on the Pirate, not just the Pirate Bay, but on torrent sites across the web. Fury, a movie called Still Alice, and a couple other movies, big movies, some that aren't even out yet, not until next year. So obviously Sony is not too happy about this, and they've decided to fight back in a way, and they're doing that by DDoSing the very people that have stolen from them, or at least trying to. And may possibly be doing it in a very questioned way, because it seems like they might be using Amazon's cloud service to actually achieve these DDoS attacks on the thieves themselves. What do you think about what's going on with this, Dosh?
I think if it is happening, keep in mind this is a rumor article, so they quote 2 unnamed sources, which could be anybody. And if Sony is doing it, they've probably outsourced their security and anti-piracy measures to a third-party company, and the third-party company is probably doing it because Sony wouldn't want their name attached to a DDoS attack, and they wouldn't want to piss off Amazon to not have access to their cloud anymore. A DDoS is, for anybody who doesn't know it, it's just a a flood of traffic that they send from a certain computer, which they just have a distributed network of computers. So say 100 computers they have, just flooding all of their bandwidth towards a single website. They're trying to take down the websites that host the torrent files of the movies that were pirated and stolen. And they're trying to just take down the websites. So they're flooding the server, the provider of the websites. They're trying to essentially the reason you do a DDoS attack is to outdo the bandwidth of whoever you're attacking. So if somebody has a 1 gig pipe and you're sending 2 gigs of traffic, then that's the last time anybody's going to hear about that website. And Sony would never really risk the lawsuit involved in that. So a third-party provider that tries to prevent this, they're trying to poison the BitTorrent swarms by just giving bogus IP addresses and bogus content when torrent clients try to request the content. And something I think it's a Sony outsourcing thing that really has nothing to do with Sony to speak of.
And poisoning the swarms really does seem like the more likely of things that could possibly be happening from their whatever company is being outsourced to do this, if they are actually being outsourced to do it, because as you mentioned, this is kind of a rumor at this point. But poisoning the swarms is a definite possibility. It wouldn't be the first time it's ever happened. So they basically would just make the content so that people couldn't download it. And it doesn't seem like it's out of the realm of possibility that could be happening. But using Amazon's cloud servers, that seems a bit far-fetched, even if they are outsourcing it to be done.
Yeah, I think Amazon has detection methods to detect when somebody's trying to denial service somebody and will shut down their connection immediately. It seems like something that would be in Amazon's best interest. And, I mean, even with the poisoning the swarm, it's only going to delay the inevitable. People's BitTorrent clients will eventually connect to somebody that has the real content. And it could be just Sony asking a third party saying, something, I need you to delay this until I get a court order to put down these websites. And so it may just be a delay tactic because inevitably the DDoS attack will end and the poisoning will end. So it's going to get out there eventually. Sony might just be trying to buy time.
And even the effect of what this could possibly be, even if they do stop a couple of sites, it's really just going to be like the effect of putting like a Band-Aid on a dam that's about to burst. Because, they're not going to stop private trackers. They're not going to stop news groups. And they're not going to stop every single public tracker out there. Even if they just stopped like Pirate Bay and Kick-Ass Torrents, a couple of the biggest ones, they're not going to stop all the others. And once it's out on the internet, it's out there. You're not going to take it back.
And do you really know what the hackers even wanted? Like the only news I've ever read about it is that they warned them.
They basically said they wanted equality. That was it.
It's like marriage equality, like
I don't know,
gender
equality. Well, afterwards there was like a rumor that was, it's basically been shut down by a lot of people, including North Korea themselves, but people were saying that North Korea was involved. And because of a movie coming out with James Franco and Seth Rogen called The Interview, which is getting absolutely terrible reviews, getting slammed on Metacritic. But nonetheless involves them going to North Korea to do an interview with Kim Jong-un, and they're sort of brought in by the CIA and asked them to assassinate Kim Jong-un. So people were rumoring that this was to basically stop Sony from releasing that movie, as if that would actually happen. But that's completely unfounded. It's apparently not the case.
I mean, it seems like no matter what, the hackers were going to put out the movies, and there's really nothing Sony can do about it. The movies are going to be out there sooner or later, and they just need to suck it up because that's how hacking works.
Especially, this time of year, some of those movies were big, potentially award-winning films. They would have had DVD screeners leaked anyway. Towards the end of the year is a really bad time for the movie studios because of piracy, because they send out all these screeners for Academy Awards and things like that, and they all get leaked onto the internet because they send them out to everyone at the Academy, and there's no way they're going to keep that all bundled up.
Luckily, it's the best time of the year for anybody who downloads movies.
Yeah, because there's just so much so much of it happening. But to keep on topic sort of with piracy, huge news. The Pirate Bay has been raided again and shut down again. This is not the first time this has happened, but apparently they're saying it could possibly be permanent this time. Even original creator Peter Soon came out as saying he hopes it's the end, because the Pirate Bay has just really just gone down in quality over the years. I mean, I've not been on Pirate Bay in ages, and I don't know anyone that actually uses the Pirate Bay. But it's, from what I understand, it's just an absolute shitfest of ads and people looking, malware, and people looking for vulnerabilities in your system, most likely. So going on there, especially without a VPN, wouldn't have been advisable anyway. And if movie companies did want to track you and find out who's pirating their content, that would be the perfect place to go, because it's just wide open. Anyone can go on there and upload. So I mean, I think it's a good thing that it's gone, and I hope more people will transition into the private side of things to try to be a little bit safer. But whether or not they'll be shut down permanently or not, I don't know if that'll actually be the case.
And with the tracking and everything that the MPA and RIAA have been doing over the years, I stopped using Pirate Bay a long time ago, but as a website, I think they're a staple. Sure, they haven't updated their website, and it's really pretty ugly now in today's standards, but it's been a reliable torrent site for years, and in this day and age, it's tough to be a reliable torrent site. It's almost a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, it's been a reliable site, but unfortunately, because of the fact that they don't require any of their users to maintain a ratio of any kind, it just results in people doing the pump and dump. They just go there and they download something for themselves, and then they delete it out of their torrent client, and they don't give a fuck about anyone else, whether or not they're going to be able to download it at any sort of respectable speed. So that's why a lot of people will resort to things like private trackers, where they actually do require you to upload stuff back.
There's always going to be a draw from the general public, though. I mean, it's really enthusiasts that are going to be members of the private trackers. The world needs public trackers for the people that are casual pirates that want to download whatever movie, whether or not they've actually seen it or not. So they just want to have it at home, and there has to be some place to get it, and Pirate Bay has been the staple for that for years.
Yeah, and even a lot of people who've actually put stuff up on there legitimately. Sometimes maybe just friends sharing files or something like that. Maybe if we were doing a podcast and I needed to send a video file to Damish to edit, I could send it over the Pirate Bay. Or if you had a band,
nobody uses it for that. That's the sales pitch. Like
it totally could be.
That was the torrent sales pitch. Like, torrents allow you to share big files easily. Sure, you can download a Linux distribution, but everybody's downloading music and movies.
Well, yes, of course they are. But I'm just saying it could be used for that. It could be. It could be. It's possible.
But as for Pirate Bay going down, it'll be back up again. It's inevitable. They make too much money. I can't really release a lot of details about it, but I had a conversation with one of the original Pirate Bay founders, and they mentioned to me that they made $240,000 a month in revenue. And this was years ago. This was
not even compared to now.
4 or 5 years ago this happened. I had this conversation, and $250,000 a month. Nobody's going to let that just go to the wayside.
Oh no, there's way too much money to be made. The moment it was shut down, there was a few clone sites that popped up. Some have gone away. There's, from what I've heard, there's apparently one in Costa Rica right now still, but it's just a clone site, and it looks like they're probably just trying to cash on the ads, because if someone still wants to advertise on the Pirate Bay, because a lot of people go there. I mean, they get a lot of unique users every single month, probably in the millions of users every month.
Oh yeah, so there's always going to be a market for fake Viagra pills and pheromone sprays and really huge dildos. Like, those ads are they've been all over the sites for years, and it's because they pay the site owners the best, and they're the only ones that are questionable enough to actually want to be connected to a piracy website, and nobody wants to give that up, and any kind of clone site is just going to make a fortune until the Pirate Bay comes back.
Yeah, and if there's no Pirate Bay, I mean, what is Live Jasmine going to do? They will cease to exist. They will not be able to feed their kids. And apparently, according to Peter Soon, that's exactly how he'd like it to stay. Because as I was saying before, even he doesn't think it's good. He thinks the site, according to him, quoting, he says the site was ugly, full of bugs, old code, and old designs that never changed except for one thing: the ads. More and more ads were filling the site, and somehow, when it felt unimaginable to make these ads more distasteful, they somehow became even worse. This is right from one of the founders of the Pirate Bay, Peter Soon.
I can see where he's coming from. Like, the website really hasn't changed at all since it first came out. There are websites now that have, really great Java menus that pop up and just helpful tidbits that are all around the site. They have links to the actual legitimate download to the movie if you're downloading a movie, and there are really great websites, and Pirate Bay really never became one of those great websites. They just stuck to the old code and just raked in the cash, and in really raunchy, horrid ways. And I can see why he doesn't like something that he created. And I don't agree that he wants it, that I would want it to shut down, but to see it update and evolve into some of the newer sites would be nice to see.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't hate it when he's sitting on his boat.
Exactly. I am hating it from my multi-million-dollar mansion.
Yeah, the best place to hate it from. He's got the best view possible. And to come back again now to Sony, really just being out there in the news quite a lot this whole month. Really, they just can't stay out of the news. Sony Pictures now apparently mad at Netflix because of their failure to block overseas VPN users. Now, there's basically, it comes down to this. There's two different types of VPN users, as I see it. There's people with legitimate accounts that live in countries that have Netflix that maybe want to use VPNs to access content in maybe the UK, Germany, France, Sweden, what have you. I do this. It's not illegal in any way whatsoever, and it's completely fine, and it's completely acceptable. And then there's the other side of it where people in countries that don't have Netflix that are using VPNs just to get subscriptions, and that's really what Sony's after here. The most notable one is Australia. Australia has no Netflix, so people are using things like a US VPN, maybe a free one or a paid one, not really sure, but then they get a subscription that way, and Sony is mad at Netflix for not denying these people, from buying it. But, really to stop it, they would have to stop taking things like PayPal, and that's going to really hit their business model pretty hard if they had to stop taking all payments from PayPal just to stop international sales.
And looking at it from Netflix's point of view, they just want to play any kind of content that they can. Whoever's logged on to whatever server, anything that takes the load off their servers, which filtering is increasing the load, they just want to avoid altogether. And if people are on their site, they're making money, so they don't want to piss off the users. Yeah. But at the same time, I can see Sony's point of view. Every country has their own laws governing how long of a delay movies can be released and how much they pay in royalty fees. So Sony wants to say, something. If Netflix users in the US want to watch, it doesn't matter whatever latest movie they put out was, we want to wait 2 more months in the US because we can. That's the delay that happens in the US. And if people watch it first in the UK, they'll be less likely to watch it in the US, and then they lose that advertising revenue. And say you're a UK advertiser and you get US traffic, and you're like, I'm not paying for that. That's a US user. I'm not selling my shoes to them. And so Sony's point of view, I could see it. But at the same time, something? Sony should almost change their tagline to Sony, pissing off hackers and pirates, because that's all they're doing, and anybody who has a VPN isn't watching Sony legitimately anyhow, so I don't even know why they're bothering.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to, for someone like me, it's just if you don't know this, the Netflix libraries in each country is different because of the movie studios reach different agreements with them. Because of advertising or release schedules, whatever it may be. There's some UK TV shows that come out over there on Netflix and don't come out in America at all, period. So you could just be sitting there forever waiting to see it. And in the past, you would have to basically go and pirate the movie or something or the TV show. just to be able to watch content from another country. But now you can just go on Netflix and use a VPN, which is perfectly legal. And I see nothing wrong with that. And if they were to stop that traffic somehow, I would not be very pleased, and I would probably stop using Netflix.
See, I'm a diehard news groups user. I'm an old school person, so I've always just kind of stuck around the news groups. But I mean, the first time I learned about VPNs was from you, and I'm a computer savvy person. I am going to school for internet security. And you are the first person I heard of VPNs used for this purpose for. And the average user's never in a million years going to know what a VPN is. So I'm not even sure what Sony's hoping to accomplish by doing this.
I didn't know that I had taught you about VPNs, or was it just for this use specifically?
I mean, I knew about VPNs, but certainly for this use.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty creative use. I remember when I was thinking about getting a VPN, I was like, well, why do I need a VPN? Why do I want to pay for a VPN? And this was one of the major selling points to me. It was the reason I pay $40 a year for my VPN. Is because I'll have access to all these different Netflix libraries. And I gotta be honest, the libraries over in Europe are so much better than the American one. They have newer movies, and like all of the new movies, not just some from this studio and some from that studio, and it just becomes a big Warner Brothers ad across Netflix. No, they have like everything. And recent too, like right after they come out on like DVD or Blu-ray, they're up on Netflix almost immediately. So yeah, if they got rid of all that, then I probably wouldn't use Netflix anymore. And I'd probably have to tell my dad that I'm going to stop using his account for free.
What a horrible travesty that would be.
I know, he would be heartbroken. What would he do?
But I agree and disagree. Like the UK Netflix has different things, and I think the combination of the two makes Netflix really worth it. Just the US Netflix, they don't really release new things that often, and the new things it's starting to be like a Hulu type thing where the new things are crap you wouldn't watch even if they were free.
Yeah.
And
you're like, new releases, that's not new. That was on here a month ago.
I pirated that yesterday. Well, jeez, you're slow.
Oh god.
But for me, I get to the UK one just by using the Firefox plugin. That's the Hola plugin.
Hola,
yes.
Yeah, spelled HOLA.org. But for any of you out there that want to watch Netflix in other countries, go to HOLA.org. Get the plugin for your browser. It's completely free and easy to use. And you can get Netflix in other countries. So
and this is not a paid plug.
No, it's not. It's completely usable. I have loads of friends that have used it. I use a paid one. I use private internet access, and I'll link to them down in the description. They give you a lot of options where you can connect. They don't keep logs, things like that. I don't know Ola.org's, specific, if they keep logs or anything like that. I don't know all of their specifics. But I trust private internet access. That's why I chose to pay $40 a year for it.
And I use news groups that I'm not going to share, because I want them to stay open.
Oh yeah, well, I use my VPNs just for Netflix. That's all I use it for.
Yeah, I use my news groups just for Linux.
You gotta get. Well, how else are you supposed to get Linux license? How else?
Nowhere else.
Absolutely. All right, but to go ahead and kind of wrap up the podcast, we like to do almost every week, kind of talk about what games we've been playing. Right now, I've been pretty much just playing Far Cry 4 a little bit. The game still has a long way to go until it's completely perfect. I was able to fix my ghosting textures issue, which is a SLI problem that I found out was directly linked to SMAA, which is a form of anti-aliasing, so now I'm not using that. And it looks okay, and there's still some mouse input lag that I've experienced. I know you said that it's better for you now, that you're not really noticing it as much.
It's almost non-existent. I went through, I'll see if I can find the link to the website so you can link it, but I went through a little FAQ on how to get rid of hardware acceleration or enable hardware acceleration, whatever. And for the most part, the lag is minimal to the point where I can play the game almost as though it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's okay. I could definitely notice an improvement. Another thing I had to do for it was turning down the sensitivity in-game and just relying on my mouse's DPI settings, which thankfully goes up to 6400, so pretty quick, and I usually don't use very high mouse sensitivity in-game anyway. So it's improved it a bit, but it's still not perfect in my eyes, and I'd like to see a couple more patches until the game is, really up to what I would consider an acceptable selling point where people should be paying money for it. Thankfully, you can get it actually pretty cheap on the PC. On consoles, they're still paying $60, but over G2, yeah, over on G2A right now, the game's not even been out a full month, and it's already down at $30. So if you want to get it cheap, you can go check it out on G2A. Links down in the description, as always. Have you been playing any other games recently?
I mean, for the people listening, I mean, if you're trying to decide between Far Cry 4 and fuck, I can't remember the name of it.
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age. Repeat. Edit. And but I was really torn when I was looking for a new game to buy on whether to get Far Cry 4 or Dragon Age. And I ended up buying Dragon Age, and I regret it. I should have gotten Far Cry 4. The Dragon Age multiplayer is crap. Like I am seriously disappointed. They had a great opportunity to make an awesome co-op for Dragon Age, and they failed miserably. Yeah. So if you're really torn between buying Dragon Age and Far Cry 4, fucking go Far Cry 4 every time.
And see, I'm the complete exact opposite. I would rather pay for Dragon Age over Far Cry because, I mean, don't get me wrong, Far Cry's co-op is really enjoyable. I played it for a couple hours the other day. So it's definitely worth owning, so you can play the co-op and all that. But I've enjoyed Dragon Age a lot more. I felt like it was a more solid product on launch day. Not anywhere near as buggy as Far Cry. Still had some minor issues, but nothing that would make it unplayable. Whereas Far Cry, I basically have had to wait until just the other day when 1.5 came out to actually make the game at any playable state whatsoever. So that's why maybe in a few months from now, maybe that'll change. I don't know. But, right now, I'm still saying Dragon Age Inquisition, so I'll just have to differ from you on that.
Yeah, for me, Far Cry 4 is working better and seems like a more interesting game. Dragon Age, I started with the story and I, playing through the campaign a little bit, and a few hours into it, I just started getting bored. I honestly loaded up Dragon Age Origins from Steam, which is like $5 right now. Added a few mods to it. I am having way more fun replaying Dragon Age Origins than I am playing Dragon Age Inquisition.
Wow, that's saying something. And they just won Game of the Year, Dragon Age Inquisition, and I don't know if I was 100% surprised because the whole year's been pretty shit. It's been really, really shit for games. There hasn't been that many good games.
It's been a dry year for decent PC games, and the Game of the Year thing has really been a joke for the past few years, at least. People, anytime there's the highest budget game gets Game of the Year, almost guaranteed. If they advertise more than anybody else, then they're Game of the Year. So I think it's still to be seen. I mean, the year isn't over, but it's pretty much over, and I hope 2015 has a little better game selection.
All right, but that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of Slunt Tech. I want to thank Damish, special guest, for joining us this time. I hope you did enjoy your time on the podcast. I know you're a bit of a podcast virgin. I hope we weren't too rough on you. Did you enjoy helping out with the podcast this week?
Absolutely. I hope to be invited back again.
Yeah, and you did great, so thanks a lot. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Damish, and so he can read through those and feel terrible about himself.
Oh, I'm crying inside.
The horror, the pain. But I hope you guys did enjoy it. Stick a like on it below if you did, and let us know down below what you thought of Damish. I'll catch you slunts next time. Terra!
Peace out.
Pizza out?
Peace out, you fuck.
No, you said pizza out. You think you're getting too used to your job. Around pizza too much?